This is a tough one. Measurement is tough, man. Measurement's tough because
Sure. Should I even be measuring my success?
yes, I do think that you should be measuring your success.
Okay.
And I'll give you let me start with an example, an illustration, and then I'll bring it back to scripture. So for Mother's Day, the kids and I planted a garden for my wife. And when we first started it, we had a couple of starter plants, which were really small. And then I planted a bunch of seeds, which of course you couldn't see anything at first. And for the first week, there's hardly any growth. You couldn't really see anything happening. But then after a week, I went out there and I started seeing things starting to sprout, things starting to grow. No blooms yet, but it was starting to increase in size. Well, if you go out to the garden now, dude, it is. I mean, some of these plants are massive, and it's almost. And so I actually go out there every day for the most part, and I look at it. We water it, and I can tell you this: I don't have a tape measure. I'm not going out there going, how high are my tomato plants right now? Oh, good. They grew another, eighth of an inch, or centimeter for our international audience. But I can tell that the plants are growing because they are increasing in size. They're starting to bloom, and guess what? The squashes they're starting to be squashes on there. It's starting to bear fruit. Well, scripture uses the exact same metaphor for our growth as disciples. Jesus says that if we abide in him and he in us, his words abide in us, we will bear fruit and that fruit will abide. So what is fruit for the believer, for the disciple? It's two things. One is the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Am I looking more like Christ in my lifestyle? But then fruit is also 2 Timothy 2:2. What Paul entrusted to Timothy, he was to entrust to faithful men who could then teach others. We're taking that fruit. Fruits are seed bearing. That's what a fruit is. It's the seed bearing part of the plant. That seed, we're taking that seed that is born in us and we're planting it in the life of somebody else who is then bearing fruit in their life and then taking that seed and planting it in somebody else. So how do we measure it? We measure it by looking at our own lives. Are we growing closer to Christ in our lifestyle, in our passions, in our affections, to use an old Puritan term, the things that I love, the things that I desire? And then are other people growing in their walk with the Lord as a result of my growth? Am I investing in them? That's how we measure. There's a real subjective element to that.
Sure.
Well, do I have one disciple? Do I have 10 disciples? Do I have 100 disciples? How many people are watching my Rumble videos? My YouTube, is that in a sense that's bearing fruit? But so it's subjective, but there are objective things we can look at and say, okay, other people's lives are being impacted. The Lord is using me. And so that's probably what I would point to in terms of how we measure it.